Hi, friends. Very excited today, friends, as we will cover Sonia G's holiday releases. Sonia released 2 different collections, and I was blown away by the fact I was expecting 1, but we got 2. I bought these myself as I am on Beautylicious and Sonia's PR list, but depending on the release and its limited availability will determine whether I receive PR or not. In this instance, I did not, and that is totally fine. I was happy to purchase these items. And happy that I did, because as of now, the Mount Fuji brush and holder is currently sold out. And because this was a holiday release, I don't know if it's returning. So hopefully this video won't give you too much FOMO, fam. But as with all my Sonia videos, I like to come on here, speak about the brush, the details, and also compare it to the other brushes in Sonia's collection. And we also have the Holiday Traditions trio, which we will cover an eyeshadow bundle that has newly designed handles and a new bristle type for the Sonia collection, Canadian Squirrel, both yellow and white. We have to start with what I think is the gem of this collection, the Mount Fuji brush and holder. Not only are we getting the brush, but we are getting this holder that is inspired by, yes, Mount Fuji, and it retails for $195. You might see that price and ask, whoa, where did that come from? Like all my Sonia videos, I highly recommend that you head over to her site, sweetmakeuptemptations.com, where she lays out all the details for her releases, not only covering the story behind her creations, but also providing comparisons within her collection. This brush is more dense than that brush, and just a comprehensive view of what you bought or what you are looking to purchase from her brand. So if you want to get into the nitty gritty and nerd out on the details, I'll make sure to post her blog link down below in the description box. The brush and holder, collaborative effort between different types of craftsmanship. You have the craftsmanship required to make the brush, the handle, dyed bristles, Psycho Ho Goat, persimmon dyed, which you have seen, I think, from my Kakushibuzomi video reviewing the Koiro line. This is the same type of dyeing technique used for those brushes, and lovely to see Sonia also relying on this beautiful technique. The ombre effect, I think, is just gorgeous. And here you have the brass ferrule that's in this beige matte color, and the exposed maple wood with this groove down the handle. And Sonia had explained that the entire brush, in conjunction with its holder, just has beautiful curves occurring throughout all designs. And in the actual handle, you have walnut wood for the base and the maple wood for the snow cap detailing, again taking on this interpretation of Mount Fuji with the snow. And 2 woodworking techniques were used for this process, yosegi and kumiki, and those techniques were required to fuse the different woods together in a seamless way. So that's why the price is so high. It appears that the techniques required to design and create the holder and brush came from a milieu of different avenues. So you had a collaborative effort in this realm of craftsmanship, not only for the brush, but for the holder as well. And my goodness, I'm so happy I bought this, because I would have been upset if I missed out on this brush. Again, just the sheer detailing and thoughtfulness about this design, everything from the wood that's used to the dyed bristles, it's just lovely. My goodness. I'll first get into the demo and wanted to show you a few close-up shots of the brush, and I'll go over comparisons at the end. But basically, this brush is designed to be your bronzer brush. It's an all-over type of fluffy experience with the Psycho Ho Goat hair, versatile in terms of the different powders you can use this with. And despite its fluffiness, it's not as dense as the Niji Pro, which again I will show in a moment. It has some directionality. right? Although it's fluffy on the application, you can feel a wider surface area when you place the brush on your skin. There's still predictability there, and sometimes when the brush is so fluffy, you can't really feel where the product is being placed or how it's being distributed. With the Mount Fuji brush, you can still feel the contact with your skin. There's control there, but that fluffiness leaves behind a beautifully diffused finish, which I think appropriate for that blown out bronze look. And in the demo, I used Pat McGrath's Divine Blush in Paradise Venus, a shade I rely on for a little bit of that sun-kissed feel, although it's not a traditional bronze powder or shade. I think the Mount Fuji brush was ideal to use with this type of shade. I would even use it with Starla from Benefit, although I can't stand that box packaging. But I also used it in Terra for some blush application, and I think because of, again, the nature of the color itself, I could get away with that more blown out application, just a wider serving of color that I don't fear it going beyond those boundaries on my cheeks, whereas probably I would feel differently if it were more hot pink or more pink leaning in shade. And I also went in with the Haus Labs Velvet powder. I forgot the exact name, my apologies, but I thought this bronzer had a lovely application from the Mount Fuji brush. And a note from Sonia also that this brush is ideal for softer powder types. That's why I chose the product that I did for this demo. Not ideal for gel types or where you have to use more friction in picking up product, because that could ruin the bristles of the brush. If you needed something more dense, then you go with the Niji Pro, and again, different brushes in her collection that I feel more appropriate for those textures that are tighter in the pan. You could also use the Mount Fuji brush for loose powder application, but I would just take advantage of this shape. Again, it fits into the hollows perfectly, but you can maneuver the brush in a way that is a little more precise. Instead of going head on the top of the brush, maybe you'll place product here more on its side, because there is a slight taper here, right? Where you will place the product here and then right into the hollows, and then perhaps turn the brush on its full side here to get that final buff. And you don't have to worry about the color traveling beyond that, because you get the initial lay down where you want, turn the brush to just blur the edges and take it out as far as you like. It feels beautifully comfortable in the hand, the lightweight wood, and the groove here in the handle just makes it really nice to hold. And this is Sonia's biggest brush in her collection, right? So let's get into the comparisons. First, we have the Niji Pro. The Niji Pro, shorter, denser bristles. You have a mixture blend here in the brush head, and here they are head on. And I would use Niji Pro for more precise application for a texture like, for instance, the Chantecaille bronzer, which is a baked formula, the Tom Ford one, those baked formulas, the OG NARS bronzer, that was a baked formula where people had to return that because they could not get any pickup. The Niji Pro would be ideal for that type of texture and all those textures overall, but not with the Mount Fuji, right? So I like the Niji Pro for that reason. And for those who have speculated in the past in figuring out why is Sonia coming out with similar brushes, I would argue that these brushes are different. And when you get into Fude, that is brush in Japanese, you also discover these nuanced differences and how they make a profound difference in what makeup you choose to use these brushes with, what type of lay down to expect, what type of blend to expect. So while I realize from the outside it might seem like, you know, Sonia's coming out with these designs that are similar, again, I would argue they're very different. I would not use this brush with the Haus Labs. Again, I would use it with the Chantecaille bronzer or the old NARS bronzer. That's still good, still working. Or if I wanted that sharper serving of bronzer to also serve as like a sculpt moment, I would use the Niji Pro for that purpose as well. Compared to the Jumbo Bronzer A brush, I also love. Mount Fuji brush is still bigger, fluffier, and both brushes can be successfully used with powders. I had said the Jumbo Bronzer definitely has, despite its size, its precision and just directness is outstanding. And from the Mount Fuji brush, you still have directness, but there's a little more fluff. So going down the line, you have fluffy direct, semi-fluffy direct, and the most direct. And when you place them together here, you can feel there's less splay from the Jumbo Bronzer. There's a little more splay from Mount Fuji, but again, you get really nice application, although this is a much more fluffier brush. And from the Hinoki brush, more versatile overall than Mount Fuji. Yes, softer type of goat hair, smaller in brush head size, despite it still taking on a similar fan shape. More versatile in the fact that you could use this for blush because it is smaller, so you could fit it on a smaller area of your cheek. You could even strike on some highlight, and definitely more of a precise offering of bronzer since the brush head is simply smaller. So if you already have the Hinoki brush and you have a smaller face and you feel that there won't be much use for you in using the Mount Fuji brush, then that is a valid argument. I totally understand. For larger faces, or for those who prefer just like that blown out application with bronzer or blush bronzer like shades, Mount Fuji is fantastic. If you already have Jumbo Bronzer, it's tough because I would say they're similar, most definitely. There's just more of a synchronization, I feel, with the bristles. They flow like like a school of fish on your face, and you don't feel the same amount of splay that you get from Mount Fuji. And as a brush collector myself, I have to have both because I think despite their similarities, they do serve different purposes. Practically speaking, however, because the Mount Fuji brush is a collector's type of item, I would just end up using the Jumbo Bronzer more because I would feel more comfortable exposing it to more makeup, washing it more often. It's still at a once a month frequency, but you know, I would give my Mount Fuji brush a little more rest in between. That's just me. However, if you have both, I would love to know what your feedback is below. If you would even use your Mount Fuji brush, maybe you're one to just kind of keep it on the shelf or in a glass case, however you like to collect and present your Fude. Let me know. I would love to find out. So those are demos, comparisons, highlighting the Mount Fuji brush. Let's get into the Traditions set. 3 new eye brushes using the same Kiyaki wood that is found in Sonia's Kiyaki mini set, both version 1 and 2. I love, it's almost like the flipped version of her traditionally designed handles. Usually you see the curve at the top and it tapers at the bottom, but now the taper starts at the ferrule and it curves at the bottom. I think this is just beautifully designed. I love to see the Kiyaki wood in a longer handle format, and here you have the Japanese symbols that say Kumano Fude with the brush number on top. I thought this was just a lovely touch. It definitely feels in like as it's appropriately named, more traditional in that sense and in the design and presentation of these brushes. This set is still available. It retails for $140. Still relying on traditional woodworking techniques to create the beautifully designed handle, and what I was most excited about was the introduction of Canadian Squirrel in the Sonia G line, because ooh boy, Canadian Squirrel is fantastic for eye brushes since it's so soft. It's softer than goat, but has great pickup, a little more so than squirrel, right? So if you want that in-between pickup and softness between those two bristles, then Canadian Squirrel is the way to go. First, we have the S1 brush, the small detail brush made with yellow Canadian Squirrel. This is your precision detail brush. Inner corner highlight, as you see I applied here, or lower inner lash line. If you want tighter application of shadow along the lash line, you can use this brush. What I love about the small detail detail is despite its small head size, there's really nice fluidity and movement. It's not as stiff, which I think makes it a little more versatile despite its size. I applied a different color here on the center of my lid to have a nice color gradient there. And again, I appreciated the small size because I needed that precision, but it had nice flow on the skin where the application wasn't so acute and tight on the lid. It diffused well still, and I think that's due to the length of the bristles in the S1. S2 might be my favorite brush out of the three, the medium laydown brush made with yellow Canadian squirrel, and I purposely wanted to use a Pat McGrath metallic from her Celestial Divinity palette that released back in 2020 because I felt the softness of the S2, and I immediately thought, okay, Suku or a shadow that's a lot softer in the pan and easier to pick up. S2 picked up this metallic easily. I ran it across the pan gently back and forth to get nice product pickup, and my goodness, it laid it down. It might have been because I already applied extra galactic gold on my lid because I had wanted to experiment in layering the last Star Wars collab shades over this year's collab shades. So even still, however, if I were to pick up the same shade, I think it was this one here. I'm holding up the wrong brush. My apologies. So many Sonia brushes. I think even still, there's pretty good lay down there. Now, of course, if you want it more, you just go in with your finger. Yeah, so this is a more robust serving of the color. This is a softer application. I like that. It gives me control. If you wanted to use a metallic shade that was like pow wow and it intimidated you a bit, the S2 is going to pick up just enough so the color can float on the skin and the edges could buff easily, right? I think you saw in the demo how I turned the brush on its side to use its surface area to pull that color through the crease and have it diffused and blurred out. I also used this to place a matte shade on the outer corner and brought the remaining color through the crease. Even though the S2 is not designed like a traditional crease brush seen here in the Blender Pro, the fluidity and fluffiness is enough to manipulate color through the crease in a similar fashion. And I think great for beginners if they are very much edited in their approach in makeup application and maybe very much wanting to use one tool and not several at a time. The fluffy shader, I made an entire video about this type of shape, how I think is an incredibly versatile type of brush where you got the lay down, you got the lower lash line pulling through, yeah, color here if you want a little more hazed look, and then getting the blend on through the crease without reaching for a tapered brush. And the S2 covers all of those tasks. Beautifully soft, softer than goat hair, not as soft as gray, but it's up there. It's up there, but you get a little more pickup at the same time, which is where I feel this excels in. Yeah, and if you need a best of both worlds, yellow Canadian squirrel is the way to go. And that leads us into S3, the crease blending brush, white Canadian squirrel. So even though this comes to more of a point and it might appear too precise for crease application, this is actually quite soft. So again, despite its point, it has really nice movement here. I think fantastic if you are one who prefers a little more of a precise crease application, not graphic per se, but maybe just having that little cut of a line through your crease. However, you can still pull it around the edges of your blend if you want it to appear more blown out. I would say to use the S2 if you wanted a more blown out crease application. If you wanted something more precise, perhaps you would use the S3 for that initial laydown, right? If you picked up a color like I did here from the Celestial Divinity palette, I place it on the outer lid first and then I pull the remaining color through my crease. And I think the shape is intuitive to use in that the point naturally leads you into your crease portion of the eye, right? Even if you have smaller eyes, I think it will fit nicely there into the fold, and it's incredibly soft, so you won't experience any skipping or uneven application. If you wanted, you could even place color on the side of the brush despite it being a round ferrule. Get some color there, and also get some nice color here on the inner corner. I would still use the S1 for more detailing work. However, if you want more of a blown out application, like let's say if you wanted to dip into Natasha's pastel palette and you want it like that sky blue or lime matte highlight shade on the inner corner, this will be great because it'll pick up enough but will softly place that color here on the inner portion of your eye. And the set basically covers all of your eye blending needs, right? The S1 brow highlight, inner corner highlight, lower lash line, maybe some shadow lash line intensity. What do I got here? If I wanted to go in with this shade and just kind of tap on the lash line for a little more intensity, whether it be this color or another, you got that. S2, lid lay down, crease blending through, a little more color here along the lash line, tapping on the outer lid. This brush can do it all. It could do it all. And with the S3, similar tasks as the S2, but I feel this is like S1 and S2 together because again, you can place some color here on the inner corner if you wanted, through the crease, outer lid, taking it through the lower lash line too. The point will make it manageable enough where the color I feel can still stay fairly tight to your lash line, but you'll have a little bit of blurring there from, again, the overall shape of the brush. You can lightly tap a little bit here on the inner corner. It won't be as precise as the S1, but if you have the whole set, I would, try to cover as many eye tasks as possible, maybe discover new ones that you wouldn't have thought otherwise without trying. There you go. The one comparison Sonia made with the S3 was with her Fusion Eye Blender. Similar in shape overall, but the Fusion Eye Blender has more of a dome, whereas the Traditions S3 has a more pronounced taper. Those are the similarities in size, but they have totally different functions. Wouldn't use creams or liquid types of products with the Tradition series. That's why we got the Fusion series and why I have these on standby. Perhaps one of the best collections Sonia has released. My gosh, the Fusion Eye series, top notch. Those are the details for Sonia's holiday releases, both for the Mount Fuji brush and holder and for the Traditions set. I am beyond pleased with these tools, and again, every time I use a new release from Sonia, it always rekindles my love for her brand, for her tools. I could get rid of all my other brushes in my collection. I would never. This is just hypothetical, and I would be fine because all of her designs have each and every nook and cranny covered when it comes to makeup application. And the application itself for me has elevated to a level where I'm just, I'm unstoppable, man. The blend and the smoothness, the airbrush finish from these tools, remarkable. I have nothing else to say. I'm virtually speechless. But when it comes to these two holiday releases, again, I just think they were so thoughtfully designed and created. There is, again, the story behind the inspiration as to why Sonia released these holiday designs, I think worth reading about and learning about, and I cannot wait to use these tools more. Let me know if you picked up either the Mount Fuji brush, the Tradition set, both, neither. I would love to know down below. I'll see you down in those comments, fam, and until then, that is a wrap. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope this video helped, and if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up or maybe consider subscribing to my channel. And until then, I will see you on here again with another review tutorial, Sonia G brush video, or best ofs. Take care, and I will see you again soon.